Lanka. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I'm very pleased to respond to this debate, and I thank the Honourable Member for Carshalton and Wallingford for leading this debate, and the Honourable Members for Richmond Park, East Ham and Chipping Barnet for securing it. And we've had a number of very moving contributions reflecting the deep humanitarian and economic crisis afflicting the country of Sri Lanka, and I'm very grateful for those contributions. Additionally, we heard from the Honourable Members from Mitcham and Morden, the Right Honourable Member for Kingston and Surbiton, Richmond Park, Ealing North, Leicester East, Strangford, and of course the opposition spokespersons from Dundee West and Hornsey and Wood Green. I should say, Madam Deputy Speaker, that of course Minister Anne-Marie Trevelyan is now the lead Government Minister on our relations with Sri Lanka, but I'm pleased to take this debate on her behalf, and I will briefly reflect on the activities of Lord Ahmed, who until now has held that brief, in my following remarks. Of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, the UK and Sri Lanka have had a long shared history. Many UK citizens and parliamentarians themselves have very close ties with that country. We've heard members speak movingly of their experiences in Sri Lanka today. It's, of course, a relationship which really does matter to the UK, and it's been extremely difficult for us all to witness Sri Lanka's recent economic decline, because it is an economic crisis made worse by of course, dreadful mismanagement, long-term mismanagement, as well as the economic fallout from the terrible 2019 Easter Sunday attacks and the COVID pandemic and Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. So in terms of what the British government is doing about it, Madam Deputy Speaker, of course we believe a stable and inclusive political settlement is an essential foundation for economic recovery and growth over the long term in Sri Lanka. And my honourable friend, the Noble Lord Ahmed of Wimbledon, made this point to Sri Lankan President Wickremesinghe in July and to the Sri Lankan Prime Minister Gunawardena in August. And of course he urged progress both in terms of human rights and accountability, as well as economic reform. Because, Madam Deputy Speaker, the UK is providing economic support through a number of institutions, including the IMF, the World Bank, the United Nations, the Asian Development Bank and the Paris Club. And as has been mentioned here today, we welcome the initial September staff level agreement with the IMF for a 4-year support programme of some $3 billion. Now, of course, while this agreement represents a positive milestone for Sri Lanka, continued negotiations are needed to achieve final programme approval and a route to restore macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability. Today, the honourable members, some honourable members have proposed conditionalities on IMF assistance. Of course, the IMF does not have the ability within its governance structure to impose political or human rights-linked conditionality, only conditionality that is linked to economic policy. But of course, we want human rights progress to advance in tandem with economic progress, and we will use other mechanisms to hold the Sri Lankans to account and progress human rights in that regard. Very briefly, I'm happy to indulge her very briefly.
Can I emphasise that these international bodies, if they're allowed to impose conditions in relation to economic matters, should be imposing conditions in relation to military spending and cronyism and corruption? These are reasonable asks of any bailout.
So comments, but we seek to have conditionality interlinking to our approach in international multilateral forums with regard to human rights. We're using the UN to essentially push forward human rights. So in addition to our economic support through institutions, the UK government has